They say all politics is local. I wonder. The boss of Medway Council, Alan Jarrett, is here with me. Alan, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I'm very pleased you're here. As we take this show around the country, regardless whether we go to Labour areas or Conservative areas, we find the local MP always keen to come on, the local council leader often keen to come on. Sadly, Kelly Tolhurst decided, the local MP here, that she would not appear. From what I can see, she doesn't do any media at all, which I find quite astonishing. But hey, no doubt people here are thrilled that she's their MP. So that puts you in the hot seat. Alan, one thing I want to talk about that'll be of interest outside Medway, outside Kent, is grammar schools, because they've almost disappeared over much of the country. I think there are 164 grammar schools left in the whole of England and Wales, and yet here you've still got active and I think thriving grammar schools.
Absolutely thriving, you're right, Nigel. In fact, we've just taken through Cabinet agreement to make 3 of our existing grammar schools co-educational because we were struggling for numbers. So we looked around and bearing in mind we're not allowed to have a new grammar school. So how can we increase our capacity of grammar schools? And we've gone down the co-educational route, which is very popular with the parents, very popular with the children, and very popular with people outside of Medway who try to come in and hoover up any spaces that we've got.
Is there opposition? I mean, clearly when grammar schools were removed, it was Labour that began it, but I think the Conservatives closed more grammar schools in government than the Labour Party did. Is there a big campaign in Medway to stop grammar schools, or do you feel it's got broad support?
I think it's got broad support, and I think it's formed part of our election manifesto every election. We've won the last 7 elections with retention and enhancement of grammar schools as part of that manifesto. So that, amongst other things, seems to be very popular with people. And it's something Kent, and including Medway, one of the last bastions of grammar schools. Yeah. And I always find it quite nauseating, actually, that some of the people that are most vehemently against grammar schools went to grammar school themselves, so they're pulling up the drawbridge after them, you know?
I know, that's absolutely right. Now, cost of living, massive issue, and, you know, it's not necessarily your fault at local council level that gas prices are going up and all the rest of it, but clearly increases in poverty in the area. I notice that you're very, very keen as a council, very keen on the climate change agenda and us going net zero by 2050. Do you not think, Alan, that actually, given that this country only produces 1% of global CO2, given that China built 80 new coal-fired power stations last year, that the priority of these people is, I'm going to suggest, I might be wrong, but the priority of these people is they can't pay their bills, not the climate change agenda. And I just wonder, because... And by the way, I'm not suggesting that we be irresponsible. You know, we want to be good guardians of the environment. We want generations that come after us to benefit from that. But you're in line very much with the Conservative Party officially. Do you feel comfortable with that policy right now?
I think being in line with the Conservative policy nationally isn't something that in Medway we necessarily look to do. We look to do what is best for Medway people. Really interested in the reaction just now to what you said about it. We are committed to it because pretty well we have to be. It's how we go about it and how much we spend on it. So I can tell you from budget setting what we spend on climate change is very, very modest indeed. Our priorities in terms of spending for the good people of Medway are very clear, and they don't include spending millions on climate change. There's an absolute necessity to do it. The council is leading the way, but we only produce 1.4% of the carbon across the whole of Medway. So our main challenge is to work with the wider community, including the NHS, of course, and the private sector to get them to step up to the plate and attend to their carbon emissions as well.
NHS, you've mentioned it. You know, I look at cancer waiting times. Medway's doing pretty well. I mean, it's not doing great. No one is, but it's doing pretty well compared to much of the rest of the country. But the gripe that I get, just everywhere I go, is lack of access to GPs, huge waiting times for basic operations. I'm guessing politically for you, running a local council, that must be the biggest challenge you face.
Well, it's quite difficult, actually, to get people to make the distinction, and this is not an excuse, make the distinction between what is the responsibility of national government and what is the responsibility of local government. Yeah. So, the NHS is not the responsibility of local government. If it was, I suggest to you, Nigel, it would be run a damn sight better than it is now.
Yeah, no, you're right, and yet local people do, you know, have a go at their councillors. Last question, what's your biggest priority? What are you going to do between now and the next set of elections here in Medway?
What we are doing is continuing with our current agenda, which is grammar schools, which is to retain the lowest council tax in the whole of Kent, which is to build homes in the right places, but at the same time to continue to challenge the government on the way it allocates housing numbers to places.
So you're told what to do.
So yes. So a letter from the Minister which said you can choose how many homes you build, providing you follow the government standard methodology. So if that isn't straight out of doublespeak, straight out of 1984, I don't know what it is.
Well, it's your government, it's your party, but there we are.
You know what they said in the First World War, Nigel, about lions led by donkeys, you know.
Alan Jarrett, it's a great note to end on. Thank you very much indeed for coming on.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.